everybody. Welcome to our next episode of Legacy Talks. I'm Marisa Matz, the founder of Rising Legacy.
And I'm Tasha.
And today's episode is going to be focused on um, a talk that I recently attended. Given the beginning of the year, we're in February, a theme from this talk that really resonated with me had to do with the word love. And so, sometimes it's not very common or uncomfortable to use the word love in the workplace. But let's have a conversation about how to do that more frequently as leaders. So, Tosh, let's get started.
Let's go. All right. So I've known you for a while and I know your leadership style, but you talk a lot about leadership and creating positive experiences at work. How can we do that right now?
Mhm. Um, I work with leaders every single week. And one of the things that I really emphasize with leaders, especially newly promoted leaders, is the quality of their relationships with each individual on the team. And I acknowledge that these relationships can start off new and awkward and a lot of unknown when you might have a new team member join your team or you're a new leader on a team. But you have to start somewhere. And one of the things that I really recognize is when leaders approach or enter into a leadership role, for some reason you got there. Either you pursued this promotion or this role with your whole heart, your entire career, and you might have identified something that you loved about leadership. Is it working with people? Is it having direct influence over a team or strategy? Or is it that you just want to move up in an organization to make more money or to have more influence? Well, at the same time, I encourage leaders to think about what they love about working with people. Because when you become a leader, it's really centralized around people. And I've discussed that many times before as well. So during this keynote conversation that I attended, the speaker asked the audience to identify where they find love at work. And I myself had to do this exercise and turn to the person sitting next to me and share where I find love at work. And I think I said that I found love at work when a participant in one of my training workshops can find difficulty in applying something I might be talking about back at work due to a situation that they're facing currently with a team member. And they'll push back and say, I don't know how this applies to me and my work situation. And I help them bridge from theory in the classroom to real world application back at work. And that bridge is something that I truly cherish and love and welcome because sometimes people don't feel comfortable pushing back in training and asking questions like that, like, how does this apply to me? And so when they do, that demonstrates to me that some light is sparking in their head, that they're wondering how in the world this is going to apply to them back when they're in the heat of the moment, talking with an employee, asking them to do something, and then crossing their fingers and hoping that they're going to go do their jobs. That's what I personally, that's where I find love in the workplace when I can demonstrate love for learning for these leaders. And so the keynote speaker then encouraged all of us in this audience to go back into our workplaces, which is exactly why I'm having this episode, to ask people, where do you find love at work? So for all the listeners right now, maybe if you have something to write with, a post-it note or a scratch piece of paper, write yourself, where do I find love at work? So if you are a leader in your organization, I want you to think about where do you find love? Not what do you love? Where do you find love? Is it in teams? Is it interacting with customers? Is it being present in leadership meetings? Where do you find love? That's a challenge for you all. So, Tasha, forgot your original
Yeah.
your
So
original question. I hope
that's
I
a great
answered it.
segue because it brings me to my next question. It's also
Okay.
found um thing to talk about love in the workplace. So this is such a great conversation. But my second question is, how can leaders intentionally foster a culture where love can be a word that they can use more comfortably?
Mhm. So, if you're a listener right now and you're saying to yourself, love, I don't use that word at work, it's work. We often in the workplace might use other words that can be similar to love. Let's say some people use joy. Where do you find joy at work? Or are you engaged at work? And these more general terms have a different response to the word love. Like, where do you find love at work? And when it comes to leaders, I want you to think about when you have conversations with your people, usually in a one-on-one meeting with your team member. That is the time in the busy work week that I encourage you to bring it up with your team member and ask them maybe at the end of the one-on-one and share with them, you're asking this question of everyone on your team, where do you find love at work? Because if you present this question to your team in a safe one-on-one way, maybe not to the whole group and expect the group to answer very vulnerably in a team meeting. I'd prefer it to be in a one-on-one. When you ask them, where do you find love at work? And you give them a chance, maybe if you want to give it to them ahead of time and so that they can come prepared to the one-on-one, or you might have a team member that can just talk off the cuff. But when you ask this question, I invite you to pause and stay silent for a while, not jump in too quickly, because you want that employee to be sincere and honest with you. And if they say, I can't answer that, and that's okay too. But you'll be able to gauge, like, how is this employee doing at work right now? Do they find love, or is it joy or engagement or disengagement? I like to call this the golden hour of cherished time that you have with your team member that's uninterrupted. It's a commitment that you keep to the person as their manager, as their leader, to hear from them. And so I really think that this quality of conversation can make a huge difference between you and your team members as you progress through 2025.
Yeah, that's great advice. And I think the more you talk about, other phrases of love, joy, engagement, you get to know that person better. So that
Mm,
actually brings me to my next question. How does a leader's approach to recognition, maybe during those meetings, one-on-ones, reflect love in action?
mm. So I often work with leaders on providing feedback. Now, whether you call this action feedback or not, or I'd like to debrief with you, or I would like to have a recap meeting with you. I'd like to discuss what went well and what we could do differently next time. All those different approaches really stem from the action of giving feedback. Now, your question is geared towards giving recognition. And that can also be seen as giving positive feedback or reinforcing feedback, where you're trying to tell the employee, I see you, I saw your efforts, keep doing what you're doing. You're on the right track, you're on the right course. When we make an effort, and I'm going to say daily, when we make an effort to recognize our people, they're going to see, oh, well, my leader sees me. My leader likes me. My leader appreciates all the hard work that I put into my job. And when you make an effort to either write an email or recognize them in a Teams call or in a face-to-face coffee meeting, that is a demonstration of love. And whether you say that out loud to them or not, it can just be an introspective exercise that you do for yourself as a leader. You can write down, like, I really love recognizing my people. That brings me love. And recognizing too for yourself that you have the ability to increase confidence in your people, to recognize the efforts that they're putting forth at work, because you all know we spend so many hours at work. And if we can make it worthwhile for someone, make it valuable and fulfilling for someone, we can be the only person in the whole organization that provides this love for this person and not rely on any other coworker or any other leader. If you're that direct manager, you can make the difference in someone's day and career. So congratulations to you all. You have this direct influence over someone's love for their work.
Amazing. I love the message, speaking about love, but leading from that way, leading from that heart, and really being your authentic self, I think is the most important. So you talked about that. You talked about the golden hour, working one-on-one with somebody. So, Marisa, what is your leadership lesson right now?
Mhm. Um, a leadership topic that I've been asked frequently recently, it's just coming up, it's a theme, is around the difficulty and challenges around leading virtual teams. Since the pandemic over the last 5 years, being a virtual manager has become more common than ever. And so when you don't have the face-to-face interaction with your team, how to add extra effort around keeping commitments to one-on-one meetings, doing what you commit to do if you're going to follow up with an email or if you're going to connect your team member with someone else for additional support. All of those things, I think, are under an additional microscope. Like, are you performing as a strong, committed leader, one that loves you? And so, what I encourage virtual leaders to do, from like very tactical actions, such as turning on your camera, making sure that you create a face-to-face interaction with your team member, encourage them to turn on their camera so you can have a conversation eye to eye, even though you're not in person. That's step one. Like, at minimum, please turn on your cameras, get yourselves dressed, comb your hair, put a nice shirt on. Not that hard. The second thing is to be able to recognize someone's communication style. Like, do they need a lot of preparation time to meet with you? Or can they just be asked some questions around their work projects and their development and how they're doing at work? Those people could probably talk off the cuff. Recognizing the styles of each individual on your team, that's step two. And then how to manage our distractions, whether it's your phone or like notifications on your computer that are popping up, because in a virtual setting, we can only see this small box. And so all of the distractions around our desk and on our computer screen, they don't have visibility to, because sometimes, we do things on the back end and we don't even recognize that we're doing it. And we would never do it if we were meeting with them in person. Like, we wouldn't touch our phone in a one-on-one in person. But in this virtual setting, there's so many other distractions that our people on the other side actually have a sense of.
Mhm.
If we're typing real fast or if our eyes go to another screen, they see it and recognize it. And that can diminish the love between the two of you. And so, being very careful about that golden hour, that one-on-one time, to be able to show your people you care about them, you want to recognize their efforts, and that you're there to hear them and see them, is, I think, just some very critical foundational leadership behaviors that I invite you all to think about.
I love it. Great job.
Thanks so much. So everyone, that's our episode for today. I hope that you grasped some leadership nuggets from Tasha and I hope to see you next time. Thanks so much for joining.